They may start to communicate in a hurtful, passive-aggressive, or sarcastic way, and may constantly try to find fault with their partner or their subordinate. And I added one thing, which I got from I took a class in Harvard on mindfulness and the healing of social injustice. Usually these types of relationships involve some type of imbalance of power. Now, what is the relationship between this and spiritual life, the Yoga Sutras? This is a very big question. Normally, when we think of the Yoga Sutras, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. So let us sit down, let us close our eyes, let's suppress all thoughts. Then Tada Dvashtuhu Surupe Avasthanam. Then abide in the seer. Okay, that's what we usually think of. But 1.4 is there, which I think is most relevant. Vritti Sarupyam Itaratra. So this is when we're not abiding in the self, we are identifying every single moment with our thoughts. Identification. In yogas, we say asmita. We are our thoughts. So every moment, our mind is being hijacked, either by an external phone, another person outside, or like you were saying, even our own samskaras. They can come up at any time. In fact, this is we have different proofs in Yoga Sutras. One is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means direct experience. So I'm assuming most of you try to meditate. So if we're honest, how many here have sometimes sat in meditation and their mind wanders to a conflict? It starts to ruminate over, my God, that person said that to me. I should have said this back. Somewhere there's some mechanical japam going on, but how many, if we're honest about it? So we say that that's the real Mahabharata, the Great War. As you said, the Great War within. In fact, we think about Sri Ramakrishna and how he trained his direct disciples, how he trained the Holy Mother. So we always think that he taught them how to meditate. That's true. But he also gave a great deal of importance to how to understand other people, how to read other people, how to interact with other people. This was a very important, if you go through, they lived with God, God lived with them, the gospel, the Katamrita, the Lila Prasanga, the great master. If you go through that, just look at that. Look at the part where he talks about training of Sri Sharada Devi. In fact, how many of you know what he said about Holy Mother? I think he appreciated her. In Bengali, we say Babaharika Buddhi. How many know that means practical intelligence? At that time, nobody ever thought of practical intelligence as being intelligent, right? And Holy Mother, she did not have an education. Yet, it actually took 100, I think this was in the 1870s, so 140 years later, how many here have heard of Daniel Goleman? He wrote 2 books. One is Emotional Intelligence, another Social Intelligence. So let me just see what the definition that he had used for emotional intelligence. So basically, he said regarding emotional intelligence, it's the ability to manage one's own emotions. In Vedanta, we talk about this. Some of you must watch Swami Sarvapriyananda's talks. He gives this class Drisha Viveka. Now in that class, what does he talk about? Subject-object objectification. Anything you can object, that's not you. So I can see my body, I'm not my body. I can see my mind, I can see my thoughts. Therefore, I'm not my thoughts, right? So This emotional intelligence, it revolves that in the Vedantic and the yogic manner, it involves the ability to objectify our thoughts, our emotions, and stand apart from them. That's in the Yoga Sutras. Social intelligence, what did he say that meant? The ability to manage a social gathering, to feel, have empathy towards the other, and how to live in a harmonious manner. Try to live in a harmonious manner. Now, that's not to say that, because sometimes we in spiritual life, we think, no, I don't have to deal with the outside world. Let me just meditate, close my eyes, and let me just be cut off. Don't worry about anything else. Sarvam Kalividam Brahma. God is everywhere, right? But Ramakrishna would say no. He said, yes, God is everywhere, but that doesn't mean that you go and hug the tiger. Mm-hmm. And you know that you've heard that story, the Mahut Narayan, that monk, the young brahmachari, he heard this teaching, Narayan Shiv Jiva. So this Narayan is everywhere. So his guru told him that, and one day in the village he saw like an angry elephant coming towards him. But he had this, we say Vishwash, Guru Shraddha, that what his guru says, no, this God is everywhere, so that God is in that elephant. So the elephant's coming towards him, and then on top of him there was that Mahut. He's telling, get out of the way, get out of the way. He didn't get out of the way. He thought that would be disrespectful to his guru. So that elephant took his trunk and threw him to the side. Afterwards, everyone ran towards him. They nursed him, brought him back to consciousness. Then his guru asked, why didn't you get out of the way? He said, because you told me not to get out of the way. You said God is in everything. He said, yes, I said God is in everything, but God is also in the Mahut, who's telling you to get out of the way. So Ramakrishna gave this training. In Bengali, he said, Bhakta hobe, kintu keno boka keno hobe. So bhakta means be a devotee, but why should you be a fool? So he gave this training again and again. In fact, just on that point, Swami Yogananda, who was Yogin Chaudhary, before he became a monk, he went to buy a pot near Dakshineshwar, and he's very simple. So he said to the shopkeeper, look here, I'm a devotee of God, so you better not give me something bad. He said, no, I'll give you something at the right thing. So he sold him a pot. He took it home, and then he found out, those mud pots, those big mud jugs, they had a hole in it. So Ramakrishna said, why did you do that? And then he told him, always check everything very carefully. And not only that, afterwards ask for any freebies that you can get. This is Thakur's own language. So Ramakrishna was always this, Swami Vivekananda said, the perfect man, balance of head, hand, and heart. So if you say that in the Katamrita there's this word Sharala, anyone here knows what that means? It's a Bengali word, it means guileless. Sharala na hoy, Bhagavan ke pawa jai na. Unless you are guileless, you cannot realize God. This was his own statement. So many spiritual people might think, let me be simple. I think the best is like Forrest Gump. That's the best American equivalent, Forrest Gump. Yet, but Ramakrishna said, yes, be simple, but at the same time, guileless, but cultivate this Babaharika Buddhi, practical intelligence. Both have to go side by side. And if you look at the mind of Swami Vivekananda, Holy Mother, Ramakrishna, they were all exemplars. In fact, Swami Vivekananda, if you look at his practicality, at that time, at the end of the 19th century, he emphasized hygiene, cleanliness, exercise. He said, don't eat rice late at night. Don't get a pot belly. Our sadhus sometimes even do that now. We take our field at 9 o'clock at night. So he was very much, see how practical Swami Vivekananda was. as idealistic, as emotional, as simple as he was. So this is the ideal spiritual aspirant, combining Shorala, guilelessness, with Vyavaharika Buddhi, practical intelligence, combining Udarata, liberal mindedness, with Gobirata, depth, right? So all these things, we have to combine all together. Now, going back to this meditation, so what's the problem with this, what we talked about for the mind that ruminates on relationships, that's not trained in skillful means on how to handle relationships? So Swami Ashokananda said this: if we meditate for 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, more than anything else, what counts? How we spend the other 22 hours. It bleeds into one. Just like if anyone does puja at their home, if anyone does worship at their home, one Swami Tadatmananda, who he painted, I think some of his paintings are here, or in the other place. He was a great painter. They used to say he was the perfect pujari, and he did puja in such a way, he did worship in such a way that he said that that would bleed into the rest, all the other hours of the day. So same thing, it's the chicken and egg, which comes first? Our behavior at work, our relationship with others, they impact our meditation. Now, going to this Yoga Sutras 1.33. Maitri Karuna Mudita Upekshanam Sukha Dukha Punya Punya Avisheshanam Bhavanata Chitta Prasadanam. So this Maitri, which is what we're going to talk about today. What does Maitri mean? Huh? Friendship, yes. So Maitri, Karuna means mercy. Mudita, Swamiji translated that as gladness. And Upekshanam, indifference. This is towards wicked people. How to act towards wicked people. So Swamiji translated friendship, mercy, gladness, indifference, being thought of in regard to subjects, happy, unhappy, good and evil respectively. Chitta prasadanam, pacify the chitta. So all, meaning that practicing these different attitudes towards different types of people, friendship in one particular context, karuna, mercy in another, compassion in another context, mudita in another context, and upekshanam when it comes to wicked people. So these, if we know how to skillfully apply these different mindsets, then we'll be more, our mind will be more calm. Chitta prasadanam. Yes.
What is Upekshanam mean?
Upekshanam means indifference. Indifference. That's what we're going to do in the third week. So let's look at Swami Vivekananda's commentary on this. He says we must have these four sorts of ideas. We must have friendship for all. We must be merciful towards those that are in misery. When people are happy, we ought to be happy. And to the wicked, we must be indifferent. So with all subjects that come before us, if the subject is a good one, we shall feel friendly towards it. If the subject of thought is one that is miserable, we must be miserable towards the subject. If it is good, we must be glad. If it is evil, we must be indifferent. Now, I'm just going to stop there. I want to focus on the first of these qualities today. Maitri, friendship, friendliness. Now, when Swamiji says we must have friendship for all. Okay, so if I were a student in this class, I would put, what do you mean by that? Let's lean into that. What do you mean? We must be merciful towards those that are in misery. Okay. When people are happy, we ought to be happy. when people are happy, we ought to be happy. Why not? Well, usually that seems like kind of redundant, right?
You will be happy for them also.
Right. But why should he say that? Shouldn't that just be the norm?
No, a lot of people, that people doesn't happy for other people.
Okay. Okay.
They don't behave the same way.
Okay. So we'll.
People develop jealousy.
Yeah.
Sometimes if
Yeah.
they see the people who are happy, it of course it depends upon their mindset.
So good. Now you are beating me again. You're doing what I did to Professor Clooney and other professors. So this is my karma coming back to me.
I mean, it's not even the intention, sometimes the mindfulness, like I'm so engrossed in my own problems that you are happy, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my perspective. So
Okay.
if I'm mindful, then I'll be happy with you. So there has to have some awareness.
So you have to be. That's a good point. So you have to be mindful.
Yeah,
You're
awareness.
saying we have to be mindful. We have to be in that moment. We'll get back to that. We'll have a question and answer session afterwards. We'll get back to that. Just raise that point. So now let's go to what Swami Hariharananda says. He says in his commentary to the Yoga Sutras, he gives something more practical. When he says we generally feel envious when we find people in whom we are not interested or whom by our self-interest is jeopardized to be happy. Similarly, a cruel delight is felt when we find an enemy to be unhappy or in distress. Reputation of a pious person of a different persuasion often excites jealousy and displeasure. This is very fundamental. Reputation of a pious person, not an evil person, of a pious person of a different persuasion often excites jealousy and displeasure. Now, remember what I raised this question, are the Yoga Sutras relevant today? So I was just looking this up. According to the researchers at the University of Missouri, they found there's something called Facebook envy. I think that doesn't require much explanation. So researchers have found that Facebook use can lead to symptoms of depression if the social networking triggers feelings of envy amongst its users. Margaret Duffy, a professor and chair of strategic communication at the MU School of Journalism, says that how Facebook users use that site makes a difference in how they respond to it. And she writes, Facebook can be a fun and healthy activity if users take advantage of the site to stay connected with the family and old friends, etc. However, if Facebook is used to see how well an acquaintance is doing financially, or how happy an old friend is in his relationship, things that cause envy among users, use of the site can lead to what?
Depression.
Depression, in Yoga Sutras, dukkha. Yes. Does that feeling sound common?
I've gotten pinged more than once by somebody I knew from the past, a friend, to just find out what I was doing now.
Right.
So just, yeah, whenever I posted something like something new or something major like a live event, and I don't speak to this person, like generally speaking, but they'll like ping me maybe 15 years later to just ask me, when do you buy your house, for instance.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't call that connection, but
See, but I'll just some people are on Zoom, so they can't hear you. But so the audience member was saying that I'm sorry. What's your name?
Saranya.
Saranya.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was saying that sometimes people find that they're jealous of us. In fact, one of my friends, I think she might be watching, so I won't mention her name. My friend from Harvard. So she was saying that when she finished Harvard, so already some of her good friends, she has that degree that in Harvard. Suddenly, some of her really good friends, they started acting differently towards her. That's one side of it. The other side is, I asked a senior monk this. It's easy for us to see that in others. Like you were saying, it's more difficult actually to see that within ourselves. It's like the blind spot, right? You know, when you're driving and there's a blind spot when you're driving, you don't see the car coming. It's like that. Yoga Sutras talks about how to objectify that blind spot. We see that. It especially gets roused up when there's something that we think that we're good at. We think in our mind, okay, that's what I base my identity on. I could be a scientist. I could be a YouTuber. I could be a yogi, whatever it may be. And maybe if I'm a scientist or I write papers, and suddenly my friend, similarly situated, my peer, suddenly they get elected for the Nobel Prize. How's that going to make me feel? You know, Same thing. Say somebody gives a talk and they get millions and millions of views. So then what happens actually, they talk about there's a book by Edward Desai, Why We Do What We Do. He talked about this idea of intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic reward. His conclusion was that the extrinsic reward is the carrot and the stick. If you do this, then you'll get rewarded. I won't get into the experiments now, but his conclusion was that the more you are doing things for extrinsic reward, the less likely you are to be engaged, the less your intrinsic motivation and your intrinsic love for the subject comes. Is that clear? So there's a clear relationship there. So now the question comes, what are the skillful means? What are the skillful means to deal with this? Gita 6.5, excuse me, it's Gita 2.50. They talk about this karma sukoshalam. That means skillfulness in action. In fact, it talks about something called buddhi yoga, which is what we're talking about today. Buddhi yoga is the science of applying correct vichara, correct discrimination. Vedanta, we talk about that, satasat vichara, discriminating between the real and the unreal. But sometimes the problem with Vedanta, we think that they say Brahma Satyam, Brahman alone is real, Jagat Mithya. Our problem with that is we think that Jagat is out there. No, according to yoga, according to Sankhya, according to Vedanta, Jagat includes our ego, mind, body complex. That's the blind spot. We're good at applying it towards others, but not towards ourselves. So now the question comes, what are the skillful means? How do we engage with this? Okay, we have 20 minutes left. Someone told me about this, just a quick side note. Someone said to Swamiji, most of the talks, you all talk about the problem. You talk about the problem and its relevance. But by the time the solutions come, you just give a 1-minute solution and that's it. Stay tuned for part 2, and part 2 never comes. So these last 19 minutes, we're gonna deal with that. What are some solutions? So Patanjali says, Vitarka badhane pratipaksha bhavanam, which means to obstruct thoughts which are inimical, hostile to yoga. Pratipaksha bhavanam, contrary thoughts should be brought. So if Patanjali was here, I would push back. See, I'm a monk at everything else, but I'm still a lawyer inside my blood, So I have to, if I don't push back, I think, I'm not being me. So then I would say to Patanjali, okay, but there's a problem with that. Contrary thoughts should be brought up. The problem is this. Patanjali, you're saying this, but usually when these pain bodies come, there are these kleshas. Raga, kleshas mean pain bodies. We'll just translate that. Raga, attachment. Dvesha, hatred, aversion. Abhinivesha, fear of death. Now, according to Patanjali, what makes us come back in the cycle of reincarnation? It's that lifetime after lifetime, these are not just in this lifetime, that these different vrittis, these different thoughts have so much psychic energy. So you can think of them like, if you think of the mind in terms of waves, you can think of them like a tsunami wave. And you can think of you're trying to cultivate a contrary thought, which will be like a dinghy boat, you know. So what chance does it have? You try this out in your own life. Next time you get triggered, and then remember this. You come back and tell me how it goes. So then the question is, so that's not enough. What are the skillful means? What is karma sukoshalam? Now, this is where I'm going to bring in something a little bit different, because I went through all the commentators. Anyone who wants to, any Pandit, at least what they've said, I'm just going by what the Patanjali said and what the traditional commentators said. I did not find much helpful. We have a great theory, but we need to bring other things in. So in my class, especially in Buddhism and mindfulness and the healing of social injustice, they have a different definition of Maitri. Does anyone know what the Pali word for that is? Metta, friendship. Now, this is not contrary. This is actually in the Yoga Sutras. It's just not spelled out. It's in the Gita, this idea I'm going to talk about. It's in Vedanta. This is that this metta first, it must be applied towards oneself. This karuna, this compassion, it first must be applied towards ourselves. So that's the important thing. That's a deep thing that we have to think about. In fact, this is even in the Gita as well. Gita 6.5. Udaredatmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet. So let a person be lifted up by his own self. Let him or her not lower themselves by depression. Atmaiva hya atmana bandhu. For the mind is one's friend. Atmaiva ripunatmanaha. Ripunatmanaha. Ripu means what? Enemy. And that same mind is one's enemy. Vyasa, in his commentary to one of the sutras, very astonished. He said the mind is like a river. It moves in two different directions. One goes towards the negative, the other goes towards the positive. What are the skillful means that we do? What are the skillful means that this is something we have to think about, because it's not really laid out. Actually, these are new things for us, how to deal with these things. So we have to be now the living commentators. Yoga Sutras is a living text, and it keeps getting updated. The principles will be there, but it has to keep getting updated, especially the means. So going back to Buddhism, metta. Now, metta has a wide range of possibilities. It starts with being a friend towards oneself. I think they call that friendliness, friendly. That's one end of the pendulum. Yet, as we continue to cultivate that more and more, as we overflow, we become abundant with that metta within ourselves. In this line, not just one tangential, we attended one Buddhist workshop. One Buddhist astronomer was there from Harvard. We were talking about this idea of abundance overflowing from within, and it's spreading out, overpouring. He said, Swamiji, you know, stars are the same way. They say the star, sun, first the light builds up within. Then it bursts in the sun and illuminates the entire universe. Same thing, that first it has to be, we have to practice this karuna, this metta towards ourselves. We have to think about how to do that. We always say, Tattvamasi, you are that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that Brahman. But somehow that gets cut off from our mind, right? How many feel like that? There's some disconnect. We say the highest truths. Those are the goals, ends. But what did Swami Vivekananda say? He says this in Raja Yoga too. Fix the ends. Then the entire energy should be on the means. How to get there? So one thing that I found, we did this, this was our class, we engaged in this. And I'm going to ask all of us, those who are interested, I'm going to give you all like an assignment, and myself the same assignment that I had at Harvard as well. That let's take a vow, let's try to do something during this 4-week course that we get something solid afterwards. We actually not only listen, know what skillful means is, but we get to, Gandhiji said, my experiments with truth. So I challenge all of us, let's also do that. That's my experiment with truth. So this week, let's take up this concept of Maitri. Let's see when it gets triggered. Now we know when we're talking about Maitri, what that means actually. We get triggered, right? So one way is we're talking about being a friend towards oneself. Another way, on top of that, waking up in the morning, breath. Breathing in gratitude. Let's take a deep breath right now. Let's just take a deep breath. Hold it. And exhale. Let's do it again. Hold it for 4. Exhale. One more time. So how many, just from that one simple exercise, how many feel different? So see the power of breath. So bringing in this attitude of friendship towards ourselves with breath. There's a third element we talked about. This is all according to Buddhism. Gratitude. Gratitude. I'm not going to mention her name. So one devotee, she's lived a very long life. She's still healthy, almost 90 years old, but still healthy. In fact, she still runs marathons. And she's a very spiritually elevated soul. So one time I just asked her, like, what's your secret, So she told me how she exercises, how to run marathons, you have to build up the quadriceps, the adductors, all this stuff. Okay, that's fine. But she said something else. She said, you know what? I give gratitude to the different parts of my body. I give thanks to my toes. Why? For my entire life, they've been serving me. I give thanks to my knees, my hands. Sometimes she says this very nicely. I sometimes, you're doing good, So that attention, right? So what are we doing when we're giving attention? Gratitude. One pushback to that, which I want to clear up, in the Kautamrita Gospel, Keshab Sen is talking about, oh God, thank you for giving us food. Ramakrishna heard that, and he said, Ishwar Nijer Bap. In Bengali, that means Ishwar Nijer Bap is one's own father. Nijer Ma is one's own mother. Kano oke dhanavad dibe? Why would you give thanks to them? Dhanno kena dibe? Why would you give thanks to them? They're your own. That would be insulting. I had this conversation with my father today. So he took that opportunity to again, lecture me. So this time I pushed back on him though. I said, yes, that's true. But Girish Ghosh in Kashipur on the January 1st, 1886, some of you might have heard the story. Ramakrishna is walking down that path and he says, Girish, Dviki Bolchish, what are you saying? You're telling everyone I'm an incarnation? Then Girish Ghosh said, what more can I say? Who Valmiki and Vyasa failed to express, what more can I say? Ramakrishna heard that, and then he went into a bhav, and he said, Chaitanya Hok, may you all be liberated. So because of those words, even now in Kashipur today, there's a line about 6 kilometers long. It takes about 6 hours to get there, to get inside that bedroom. So what's the point I'm making? Yes, gratitude. That's different. But we're talking gratitude here is not just superficial thanks. No, it takes subtlety. My father told me, you won't thank your mother for raising you. No, but I can if I think about it and give some thought. I can appreciate some quality and tell her. And that means a lot. Words do mean a lot. Why does the Divine Mother, forget my mom or your mother, why in the Chandi, we have these different stutis, right? Narayana Stuti in the 11th chapter of the Chandi. The Divine Mother likes to hear the praise herself, let alone human beings. Why? The short answer is that both these qualities are within us. As I talked about, both these kleshas are within us. And what else? What does Swami Vivekananda say also is within us? Our positive samskaras, our positive vittis. So we want to arouse those. One time, Radhu, Radhu, Holy Mother's companion, so she was criticizing Holy Mother, and she was saying, Tumi Jagat Vinashini, you're the destroyer of the world. Mother originally caught her, said, don't say that. Why? If you say that, my children will come to harm. Because the Divine Mother this is the cosmic mind, right? So whatever you feed it, it manifests that. So this is the third thing, this gratitude. That ought to take subtlety. Even to see our own good points takes subtlety too. It's not so I can recognize your good points, but to see our own points is not so easy. Why? Psychologists talk about this. There's a negative bias of the mind that prevents us actually from seeing our own good qualities. Even the most arrogant person, whatever it may be, when they go at night, they might be that troubled child. This is all just a projection. Vikshepa Shakti in Advaita Vedanta. So these three things, right? In the morning we can wake up. After we look at the Lord, our Ishta Devata, then we can also that cultivating that idea of friendly being, metta towards ourselves, taking in breath, gratitude for the different bodies, different limbs, mind, the world. Thank you for everything going so smoothly. Just acknowledging, everybody wants that attention. Even the Divine Mother, she wants that attention too. Everyone needs that attention. John Dobson, how many of you have heard of John Dobson? He developed the Dobsonian telescope. So he lived to the age of 98. And almost his entire life, he was quite fresh. He used to take his telescope and and take a group of us and look into the stars and explain so much thing. So much of his prana went to the stars. Swami Sarvadevananda, who's coming in a couple of weeks, he made a very profound insight. He says, because he loves the stars love him back. And they bless him. So that gratitude, thinking about first our own qualities, it's not arrogance. It's what Swami Vivekananda said, it's a statement of fact. If one is 6 feet tall, they're not going to say they're 7 feet tall. No, but what is a statement of facts? What are my strengths? Right? Statement of fact. Not at the Advaitic level, Tattvamasi, you are that Brahman. No, even at this empirical level. We're not facing difficulty at that level. We're facing, Swami Yatishwaranji said, most of our problems are not spiritual, they're psychological. So we talked about, in conclusion, we talked about and we're talked about how to bring skillful means to being friendship and to countering ourselves when we find ourselves getting jealous and triggered. And that skillful means is waking up, finding those good qualities, breathing in, keeping a journal. So I would request everybody here, I want everybody to keep a journal. Just one paragraph every day. Because what we're going to do with this, we're going to have a workshop at the end. I'm just following what Harvard taught us. So if you have to say it's good or bad, it goes back to Harvard, okay? So now I have that stamp. So I want this to be something in mindfulness. What's the link between mindfulness and gratitude? When mindfulness is there, gratitude. What happens when we're gratitude? Notice if you praise anybody, if you find something good, what happens to your mind? You feel a sense of expansion. What happens when we criticize it? Let's be honest. What happens when we critique somebody?
Contraction.
Initially, we feel good. That's like Chidekananda said. Let's be honest about it. Initially, we feel some goodness, But after some short time, that fades away. Holy Mother is such a great commentator. She said that why do we feel like that? Why do we get bad karma when we critique somebody else? She said, because first, if I'm saying somebody is, they're jealous of me. First, what am I doing? I'm raising that vritti of jealousy in my own mind, raising it up from where? Not from outside, from within. It clouds my mind. Then I project that onto another person. So who ultimately gets hurt by that process? Right. Now, that's not to say that we don't. Ramakrishna was also Holy Mother knew who was good. She knew what was bad. She had that Babaharika buddhi, that practical intelligence. She just did not emphasize one. That's all. Okay. So that's our assignment for this week. Next week, we'll take up another thing. Okay. And our goal is just, at this time, don't even try to deal with it. Just more, try to observe when we get triggered. Don't try to correct it. If you try to correct it, then that whole judgment comes. No, forget about that, It's like my father, sometimes he said, you have this quality. That's fine, let's just leave it there, You may be right, let's just leave it there right now. So if I say that, then he's okay, Okay, so now we're at 8:30. So now I'd like to open it up to question, answers, or discussions.
Most of these people have their cameras off, but you wanted to be able to look.
Okay.
We discussed that.
Okay. Okay, so if anyone, that's okay. If anyone, yeah, go ahead.
Two questions.
Sure. Can you say your name?
Exactly.
Do we have a mic? We don't have a microphone. Okay, you have to speak
I
loud.
just want to let you know, this is a side note, and I know you're new to the city, or you've been here before. I knew Swami Chidekananda.
Okay.
From when we started thing. But I saw two devotees near that complex in the theater. So I sort of wanted to review.
Okay, wonderful.
So when you said earlier about identifying with your thoughts as a negation, is that right?
So identifying thought as a negation.
Yeah, I really didn't kind of that breeze by me quickly, but you said, you identify a thought, so you are not that thought. Is that something that you?
No, the sutra is Vrittisarupyam Itaratra. So 1.3 is Tadasrupe Avasthanam. The seer abides in his own self. That means that this Atman, I abide with my permanent self. So in the yoga philosophy, you have Purusha. Then you have this mind, body, ego complex, which is Prakriti. This entire world is Prakriti. So a problem of our ignorance is that we are always identifying with the world, with the mind, with the body, with the ego.
Right.
So our goal ultimately to cut that. Okay. So that's this idea. So when we say identifying, normally we're identifying with every thought that comes, every emotion that comes.
Right.
So that's part of our ignorance.
Yeah. I see that. That would be the complex ego complex.
That's part of it. The ego, the mind, the body, all these things. Yes.
And then part two is dealing with the, the Atman, as a sort of, you know, applies to, your everyday experience, your day-to-day.
No, I didn't. What does that mean? Okay. Applying the Atman as it applies to you. What do you mean by that?
Well, I guess we might have missed something because what I understood earlier was having to do with the I guess you call it there's an Atman and the Anatman, right?
Okay. After that, we'll get back to that afterwards. That's a different philosophy with Vedanta. So afterwards, we'll get back to that.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
do they enter? Is there interchange?
Yeah, we'll get back to that after. That's a different philosophy, actually. That's the Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta philosophy. So we all say we don't mix and match philosophies. We try not to. So yoga is separate, Vedanta is separate, Vishishta Bhakti is separate. So I think Medhananda said, don't mix and match. Okay, other questions? Yes, please say your name.
Yeah, hi, Swami, I'm Nina.
And please speak up. Hi, nice to meet you, Nina.
Hi,
Please
nice,
speak up.
nice to meet you. Yeah, there is a poem by Arab American poet. Her name's Naomi Nye. It's called Kindness, and I'm curious.
Yeah.
It has this line. It starts this, and I've thought about this line a lot. I'm just curious what you think about this, given the talk. She says, before you can know kindness is the deepest thing inside, you must also know sorrow as the other deepest thing.
Okay, so you're saying that, why don't you come up, because
And
people are, why don't you just come up so you can speak it, so then otherwise it's,
And I'm just
you can
curious
just,
about your thought of,
okay,
sorry.
yeah, okay, that's fine, you can just, okay, you can just speak it out, so people are there.
Yeah. Can people see me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just saying there's a poem, and it says, the first line is, before you can know kindness as the deepest thing inside you, you must also know sorrow as the other deepest thing. And I was asking Swami what he thought about that, and if it is the fact that this sorrow brings up gratitude in us. Is that the connection, or is there something else that comes to mind for you?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that's a good, does anyone have a short reply to that? That's a very important point. So before you can know kindness, you must know sorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So just for the purposes of time, I think Swami Vivekananda said that suffering, misery was his greatest teacher. And he said that if you look back in life, his own life, if we look back at our lives, it's true what he said. We learn more in misery than we do in happiness. In the Yoga Sutras, this Sukha Dukkha, well, Sukha means pleasure and Dukkha means suffering. Ultimately, they're both suffering, right? They're both reactions and attachment to this world. So, I think we find that all of us, would everyone agree with that? That we're not talking about what gave us greater feeling, but what gave us greater wisdom. I think if we look at that it's true. Our own suffering gives us greater wisdom if we look back on it. Now there's a caveat to that. Then I'll take your question. One monk, he's actually the editor of Prabhupada Bharata now. We were talking about this when we were in Advaita ashram, and he said how difficult it's actually God's grace to learn the lessons of life. Yoga Sutras, it's everything cyclical, nothing is linear, okay? So things keep repeating themselves again and again. Our mind is cyclical. Our thoughts are cyclical. This entire universe moves in a cycle, right? Prakriti is cyclical. So now when every type of experience happens, it's happening for a reason, according to the scriptures and Swami Vivekananda. It's to awaken our buddhi. There's some type of insight, some type of wisdom that I'm meant to learn. But I can't learn it if I react. I can't learn it if I get triggered. Right? If I get triggered, I create more karma, and then we get this dance continues. One more chain, one more link goes into our deposit for the next life. But the Vyasa said in the Yoga Sutras, so how do you get rid of this? How do you stop the chain? Through non-reaction. Non-reaction. When that impulse comes, Swamiji said this too. You want to react. Every bone in your body says you must react. But he or she who can withstand at that time, they get a spiritual brownie point. Something happens. Now the question is how not to react. Going on this, I'm just taking your thread if it's okay with you and going with it. So there's two ways. How many of you here have heard of Sister Nivedita? So she talked about this. There's two types of, at that time, two types of people, and particularly two types of women. That time she was talking about women. There's the Holy Mother type, who they see the world as their own, so they're so steeped in spirituality, this Samadarshana. It's like the Bodhisattva ideal. The ultimate ideal in the Bodhisattva is everyone is a child to me. So who shall I get upset with? Holy Mother was like that. So where's the room for irritation? So that's one type of, and she also had the capacity to digest. Bengali we say hajam. Hajam Shakti, the capacity to digest. Now, most of us don't have that. If we try to digest something, we'll get indigestion, mental indigestion. And then mental indigestion will continue to ruminate for weeks and weeks and maybe months and years, right? Every time we sit for meditation, immediately our mind will go back to that. So, Sister Nivedita gave another option as well. She says that there's two types of people. One type is the non-reaction. The other is taking action, proactive. What does she mean by proactive? What I felt she meant was the resourceful mind. So, okay, I don't have the ability to digest this, but let me wait. It's bothering me, but let me not react right now. Let me just give some time and wait and see. Abraham Lincoln did that. They said Abraham Lincoln was the greatest pacifist. Yet at the end of his life, what did they find in his drawer, his desk drawer of drawers? Many letters, you would be surprised the letters he wrote. Dear so-and-so, you said this, and he would critique them, really harsh language. But they were never sent out. So what he saw was that if you give time, we always talk about this Maya is this kala dvesha, this time and space. That's at the Advaitic level. But if we also look at time, how to manipulate time to give us more time. So that's one way, that when we face some type of a reaction, we get triggered, a pain body, can we give a little bit of time? Sometimes with our loved ones or people we feel more comfortable, we might react. But normally in public, we don't do that. We try to control that reaction. So that's one solution. Try to giving more time. And second thing is, as you were saying, why is it that through misery we gain these insights? So that's through the grace of the Lord, as that Swami said. So how to gain those insights? So not to blame others, but just to be with it, to be with that pain. Buddhism says this, they call this daya. Daya means what? Mercy. And being with that. One, I forgot her, she was an activist in Harvard. She was African American. She went into some movement and some KKK protester. So what she first did is she had to inhale the toxicity. She held it. Then she breathed out love and compassion. Waiting, being patient, not reacting at the time. The final thing to that, waiting for the insight to come. Some insight is there. What is that insight? Otherwise, if we don't learn that insight now, it's going to repeat itself. The universe is it's going to keep giving us the same assignment in different ways until we actually pass. You have to pass. You don't have to get an A+, but you do have to pass. Right? I hope I answered your question. I took it just. Okay. Okay. Please say and come up here, and you can, if you can.
My name is Tina.
Okay, you can just.
I like to have this question, maybe if you think not answer also, because usually you study a lot of Western things together with the Vedanta, right? I want to ask you, do you know a Course in Miracles, this book?
No, I don't know, and I think we're actually today we're just going to take questions relevant to the to what we had in class. So afterwards, we can talk afterwards.
Okay, talk. But I mentioned that because I want to know the relationship with the Vedanta. Yeah.
So okay,
if you don't know,
okay,
that's
sure.
Okay.
No, that's okay. I'll answer that. But that's beyond the scope of the talk. So, but anyways, miracles. You can. That's fine. Thank you. So miracles. We don't actually deal with that in the Yoga Sutras. It's called Vibhuti Pada. That's the third. Chapter of the Yoga Sutras, and they say by practicing concentration in such a way, you get certain powers come to you. So certain powers means what? Obstructions. So the classic example of this is Swami Vivekananda. Once Sri Ramakrishna offered Swami Vivekananda you can have these Vibhuti Padas I have, he offered his powers to Swami Vivekananda. Then Swami thought about it and said, what will I do with them? Then he said that you might be able to help the world with these powers, with these miraculous powers that you cultivated through concentration. Then Swamiji replied, better first let me realize God, and then I'll have the insight to see whether or not these miraculous powers will be helpful for me or not. So we say that these things are more obstructions. So we don't give much emphasis. They're part of actually Raja Yoga. If you read the Raja Yoga, Swami Vivekananda gives the best explanation of them. The explanation is this, that what we see right now is only at this physical plane. But if we cultivate the ability of concentration, the ability of mastery over our own prana, our own breath, if we develop such mastery over it, this is according to Swami Vivekananda, we potentially could have mastery over all the objects in the entire world. That results in what? Thought reading of others, many types of miraculous powers, right? Through the power of concentration. But again, our goal as spiritual aspirants is to realize God. So we ultimately say that these things are obstructions. I hope that answered your questions. Thank you. Yes, please say your name and then I'll continue.
I just want to Glenn Williams.
Glenn, hi, nice Glenn.
Question about the skillful means, like the purposes of the skillful means. So you described like negative vrittis as tsunamis, and trying to knock those tsunamis with a little dinghy or a
small boat. Yeah, we said right, because these according to the Yoga Sutras, these complexes, these pain bodies are filled with tremendous psychic energy. So how many lifetimes we don't know. Yeah.
So what we talked about in this class of, specifically with respect to being happy for someone instead of being jealous or whatever negative feelings will come up with someone else's happy, being a friend to yourself, breathing. Is the method that you described with being a friend to yourself, is the purpose of that in order to sort of raise the power of the opposite end of the feeling?
Yeah, so the question is the purpose of all these small techniques we talked about, metta, breathing, journaling, gratitude, all these things, what is the purpose of that? So like we said, when we do these things, these are just small things and it's open, you have to, these are your own experiments with truth. So these are suggestions. You have to figure out also what works. But these things are quite helpful. I think they're universally helpful. So I think that What are we trying to do there? So this is very important. We're not trying to acquire a trait outside of us. No, what Swami Vivekananda said is what you're trying to cultivate, that's already within you. We're just trying to give it more prana, right? We have to keep hammering that again and again so it can get stronger and stronger. It takes many, many lifetimes. So that's why they said the state of metta, of this bodhisattva, he overflows with abundance, with gratitude, with kindness. It overflows to the entire universe, right? So that's the true of this kalyana mitta, this loving kindness. That's the ultimate definition, that he can't help but be a friend to all. Our goal in the Bodhisattva, they said that's our goal, to become that. So there's a beautiful, in this Jataka tales, it's very beautiful. They said, the day Buddha was born, the world was never the same again. Something changed in the universe forever. The day this great soul came into the universe. Yeah, yes, please say your name and you can come up.
My name's Jillian.
Yeah, hi Jillian. You
Hi.
can come up. Okay, you speak loud enough. That's okay.
And I wanted to go back to the poem that Nina introduced, that we have to connect with sorrow before we can understand kindness or express kindness.
Right.
And something I learned at the Upaya Zen Center when we had a chaplaincy training was the term wounded healer.
Wounded healer.
Wounded healer.
Okay.
And that before we can express compassion and kindness, we need, our own wounding has to sort of ferment within us. And I think going back to this kindness of the self around that woundedness. Then that allows us to share and be kind toward others who are also wounded.
Okay,
so
that's
whether
right.
that is an emotional wounding or psychological wounding.
Right. First, I want to apologize to Swayamji. She's the president of our Vedanta Society, and so I've put her off 3 times. So I'll get to your question next.
Secretary is the president.
Okay, the vice. Okay.
So you're forgiven.
Right. Okay, good. We got that straight. Anyways, but this is a very important point. So this is actually what you're talking about. The wound. Everyone understood that. So the wounded heart. So how do you attend to the wound within us? Unless we sufficiently tend to that, we can't cultivate the goodness. Is that what you're asking?
Right. But then you become the wounded healer. Once you have healed it within yourself, you become the wounded healer who can then heal others or reach out to others.
Right.
But we need to do it internally. It kind of relates to what you said earlier.
Yeah.
But this teaching specifically talked about our own emotional and psychological wounds needed to be healed before we can heal others.
Right. So that's true. Our own emotional, psychic wounds need to be healed. So this is a really important point. And that comes at the distinction between Vedanta and yoga and Western psychology. How much emphasis to put? Because I can give the point back. We never really get healed, In fact, what's the name of the flow again? They call him the founder of positive psychology, Mihaly.
Lloyd Blank.
No.
Flow
Csikszentmihalyi. So he said something nice. He talked about positive psychology. He says if you spend all your energy in this garden pulling out the weeds, and you're successful, what do you have at the end of the day? Just a blank garden, just bereft of weeds, but you have no flowers. So some balance has to be there.
Yeah, I think this comes out of Buddhist psychology, and I don't have the wisdom to give you all of the background, but.
And right, I understand that. So I have heard the concept of the wounded healer, but I think then the question is how much do we put towards that? I think that in yoga, what we were trying to say is we're trying to put enough that we can objectify it. Objectify it. And yes, sometimes we do need healing too. absolutely, healing needs to come. Some type of reconciliation does need to come. So I agree with that. To what extent, that's tricky. And I think that's not one size fits all, right? So that's a case by case basis.
And I guess it's a process, right? You never really get to the end.
It's a process. In fact, in our mindfulness class, there was one, what was it? I wish I had his name. He was an African American gay lama. He was
Oh, I know.
Lama. Oh no,
Because I know he taught in
Harvard.
Hot Springs, yeah.
Okay, I'm not really. So, anyways, he was giving a class, and really brilliant his insights actually as he's talking about the racial oppression he felt. What I was really amazed with him and many of my professors in mindfulness, how they could objectify their own thoughts, how self-aware they were. We're unconscious, how self-aware they were of this. This is what I'm feeling. This is what happened. This is what happened. So that's there. So I asked him this question that if you talk about your ultimate goal is nirvana, and Buddhism believes that the world is ultimately whatever you say. If you take yogacara, then this world is shanikam. It's constantly changing. If you take Nagarjuna's philosophy of shunyata, then this is nothingness. Then why are you giving importance to this world? He said something really. He says, Swamiji, you're absolutely right. But the thing is, I first need to own my identity before I can give it up. And that was very powerful too. First need to own that. I am this, and that's what I am, and be okay with it without judgment, That's what it was when we talk about Vedanta, Drigdrisha Viveka. What are we talking about? Objectification, right? The ability to objectify. And I would argue that, so it's the same. I don't see much difference between the wounded healer. I think that healing comes when we are able to objectify it without bias.
Rod.
Yeah, Lama Rod. Thank you so much, Lama Rod. And so Lama Rod. So yes. So when we can, I would say that when we can objectify it without bias, without judgment, without reaction, it's what Swami Vivekananda said. It's just a statement of fact. But it's not me. When I can objectify it, I'm identifying with something higher.
Swamiji, I just wanted to sort of respond and.
Okay, can you come up here because we have still some people on.
Sure.
Thought it was loud enough, but maybe.
No, that's
It just
you can say your name too.
I'm Jiva. Okay. Just in response to what Glenn was sharing, I think one of the things when it comes to ideas like what Swamiji was saying about journaling and also the kindness to ourselves, it's about what we practice or what we water is what grows. And if we're not able to, I think one of the challenges we have is we have this hard shell that we are not able to penetrate, and the kindness to give others also needs to be practiced, I think, towards ourselves. And you have to break into and see that what's possible in someone else is actually also evident and possible in me, and that others experience similar things that I experience in them. And the only way that I found that I can sort of generate more compassion is if I even experience compassion to myself. And I think that kindness and compassion are very similar, but they're also different, but they kind of feed each other for sure. But the practice of noticing my own sort of need for kindness to myself reminds me that I have to be kind to the people that I struggle with. And I think, and I'm also encouraged by hearing this today, that to return to some of the practices, especially because I still need to transcend challenges with others, and that maybe I have to revisit more practices of kindness to myself to allow myself to have like, a matching tidal wave, that can rise my boat out over the other one that's rising. Just a thought that came up as you were asking your question. And also, thank you for what you shared.
Yeah, thank you. Well, oh yeah, okay. Can someone open that door, please, and just maybe maybe it got hot. Some of the AC stopped working. Maybe you can turn that down. Yeah, please, Swami, please.
Namaste.
Namaste. What?
Namaste, everybody. My name is Swami Prabha, and I serve as secretary at Brother Shankara's request. He's the president, just to clarify. My question is, can we progress from learning not to react to not to even get triggered?
Okay. Can we? So I'm extending this, so anyone on Zoom, you can, because both the president, vice president, and some of the other board members, so I feel free to go on now. I feel, I have the permission. So repeat that statement, just from there.
How to progress from not reacting to not even get triggered in the first place?
Yeah, so how to progress from not reacting to not getting triggered. So, see, that's like we're all like, you could say, how do we progress from like running 1 mile to running a marathon in the Olympics, or how do I progress from benching, 50 pounds to benching 500 pounds? So there's a pendulum. So that takes practice, and that takes lots of practice, but we have to start with where we're at right now. And maybe you're at that, maybe you might be at that stage. Everyone's different, so I don't want to, but we have to know where we're at. And I do think that one thing is that as we learn to expand that time when we don't react, so that practice we talked about, Abraham Lincoln's practice, that don't say anything right then and there. Or if you have to, just tell somebody who won't spread it to the world. You need to vent sometimes. That's healthy. It's healthy to vent things. That's okay. Just don't keep it inside, because what happens, that toxicity stays in our mind. If we think of our mind like a lake, right? It kind of poisons the pool of our mind, and then we can't, then we're always in a negative mindset, right? That's what happens, because these thought waves are constantly giving toxicity. So at least first vent it out if you have to. Now you've reached that stage where after some time when we do that, okay, maybe it doesn't bother me so much. Then maybe I could just journal it out. That person said this, whatever, Then after some time, so it's like a progression. Then after some time we see that less need for journaling. Then after some time, I've seen with some, they react in the next moment it goes. Comes and goes like a wave. And they just move on with their day. Right? So it's a pendulum, I would say. So wherever we are in that pendulum, we have to start from there and slowly, progress from there. Yeah. Okay, it's 9 o'clock now, 9:01. So, I was thinking, I really liked what you said, the matching tidal wave. I don't know. I mean, because I was just, maybe it's too much. I was thinking it's sometimes nice to take one of these qualities and do like a workshop then and there, because that's while it's still fresh in the mind. Would that be too much? How many of you would be interested in that? Like doing like a workshop where you you'd have to do the work this week. And what I mean by a workshop is that be kind of nice. I've wanted to try it, that if we have a group, we'll break up into different groups and maybe dyads or triads, and we'll share our experiences. I won't be doing the talking, but it's a way that we can try to put something called insight dialogue. So we could try to go through a week of experimentation, and then we try to talk about it. What our experiences have been. How many of you would just, can I have a hand up, instead of handing it off to ask our president and vice, but how many of you might be interested? Let me just see a show of hands. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12, okay, 12. Okay, so 12 people. Would you be able to come on a Saturday? We have a talk on Sunday though, you know that. It's a different subject, pilgrimage. So let's think about that. That maybe because you said that counter tidal wave, I really liked what you were doing with that. So the precondition is that you'd have to to make this work, you'd have to keep a journal and talk about some of these practices and try to observe the mind. There's not a lot of time. It's just now we have Thursday, Friday. Even then it's okay, because I think it might be good. Take one quality at a time. So, okay. What do you think, Shailesti? What do you think? So is that okay?
Yeah, I think whatever is suitable for you and the devotees is fine.
Okay, so then maybe can we say is 10 o'clock okay in the morning time? Is that too early? Yeah, Saturday. Yeah. Raise your hand if 10 o'clock is okay on Saturday. No, okay. Yeah, sure, please. This is open.
We already have a
Oh, okay,
we have
okay.
family commitment, but I wondered maybe after lunch on Sunday, because we do gather in the hall on Sunday, maybe we could have the workshop right there, if that isn't
Oh, sure.
long and tiring.
Oh, sure, that could be done. Sure, I think that, what do you think of that? What was that? Jyoti?
Oh, I'm out of town.
Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Sunday is better? Okay. Okay, so
we could do before, because we only started at 11, I think.
Oh, yeah.
otherwise another thing is
Saturday 9 o'clock is fine, but it's too early, I guess.
no, and I don't want to mix and match. So first I have to do that. So that's unless we can. I don't want to. Is it? I don't know. Can the lecture be earlier? Or would that disrupt things?
So that's it's a set time.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So yeah. Okay. Well, let's just keep that in mind for right now, and let's just see. Let's just keep your journals, okay? And then we'll just let's just keep that in mind and what we can do about that. Okay, we'll think about that. It's just. Okay, so I'll close now. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you all so much for coming. It was nice seeing you all.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it so much.
Thank you all who joined in Zoom. Thank you.
You realize now why we need a Swami.